Hildegard Simon, born in 1916 Germany, forced to work from the age of 25 as Jewess in the so-called segregated labor deployment.
Zinaida Ivanovna Bashlai, born in 1914, Ukraine.
Forced to work from the age of 28 as a so-called East worker.
Maria Ungwari, born in 1923, Hungary.
Forced to work from the age of 21 as a concentration camp internee.
Maria Kowiecka, born in 1918, Poland.
Forced to work from the age of 24 as civilian forced laborer.
Ugo Brilli, born in 1922, Italy.
Forced to work from the age of 22 as an Italian military internee.
First, I was in the factory of the famous company Schwarzkopf directly in Berlin. This company made cosmetics, hygiene articles, pharmaceuticals. We soldered some ampoules or other shot. We worked on the convoy belt. The work was not hard, although very tedious.
Then they made this inquiry about whether the Germans would provide money for the Italian prisoners because they worked for all these 2 years without getting paid. We were prisoners of war, but we weren't under any obligation to work. So they had provided a certain sum as compensation. But as there were too many of us and would only have got a small amount, they decided just to give it to those who had been in an extermination camp, and we came away empty-handed.
She was a mistress and I was her servant. I worked all day and she could sit at the piano. She played me the Moonlight Sonata while I cleaned the windows. She thought she was doing something nice for me, that she was lifting my mood, doing good.
The people organized forced labor in Germany brutally violated human rights and brought a lot of undeserved suffering on people. Hunger, an uncertain future, lack of freedom, no contact with home. Those are the characteristics of forced labor in Germany in the years of the Second World War. Forced labor in Germany influenced the rest of our lives. For the whole of our lives, In our homelands, we bore a brand, a stigma, which was the consequence of this forced labor.
We did not feel at all well because they only gave us a few breaks in the 11 hours of work. 11 hours early and 1 week 11 hours in the night. And in those 11 hours, we had few breaks. We had to bring our own bread. And then we had a few benches. It was fitted out like a kitchen. There were only benches in there, and we were allowed to sit and eat our bread. Then a siren blew, and then we had to go back in closed. No one after and no one before. Then after a year or 6 months, they took away our benches. When we sat on the floor, it was concrete.
There was dirt on the floor, a 5 centimeter thick layer. We had to wipe the dirt away with our feet.
It had to be done really quickly. You have to do so and so much every hour. Sometimes I didn't manage it, and so then I had to bring money from home. We got 48 pfennigs an hour.
Had to examine metal pieces in the factory to make sure they were drilled through properly. There were rings with 4 openings. I checked that the openings had been made correctly. There were pieces for airplanes and submarines, but I'm not quite sure about that.
I was put in front of a huge press. 2 women were working with me and I was supposed to be the boss. But first, they taught me the technique. I thought they were German. When they spoke to me, I thought it was German, but it was Russian. I thought I was learning German words, but they were Russian words. It was funny. I only realized that after a few days.
We were shown a barrack hut. Here, wherever there was still room. They were wooden barrack huts, with funny roofs, all the same. It must have been a great firm back then that made a whole lot of money, because they were all exactly the same barrack huts everywhere. So then I was allocated a bed. They gave me a big paper sack as well. Then we got a huge pile of bits of paper. We were supposed to fill the sacks with them and make our mattresses out of them. As soon as I had finished my bed and wanted to go to sleep, some bloke said, "No, you've got the night shift now."
And in the morning light, the dead were standing between us. 6 or 7 dead in these closed wagons. There were more. And then we received 2 potatoes a day, 2 small potatoes, or 1 rotten one. And then we had nothing else. We all wanted to stay alive. I wanted to stay alive for my child.
I even know a few blokes who met German girls. They either had a thing going there or they took the girls back to France. I know a few young German women, well, not so young anymore, who came here then. Otherwise, it was generally forbidden to have any contact with German citizens. It was strictly forbidden to talk to another deportee, whether he was a Russian, an Italian, or a Czech. We were only allowed to talk to each other about work.
There is water and there was some kind of vegetable floating there. Like these heads with cabbage there, these turnips there, there was something floating there. So we took that out, that left only the liquid like that. So we gave this liquid to the prisoners of war who were working there too. And they made something out of it, something, they drank it because they were horribly hungry.
I often felt dizzy. I told the woman this and she advised me to chew flax seeds. So I did. And later I also ate hemp seeds. That is probably why I survived, because the food was terrible. A tiny piece of bread for breakfast, a little malt coffee without sugar in a bowl. Where were we supposed to get our strength from?
We were hungry. We did get some money. I can't remember anymore. We got some German money, but we couldn't buy anything with it. Everything was done with food coupons. The only thing we could buy when we passed kiosk, we bought garlic. That was free. We ate it, and so the corresponding aroma came off us. Wherever we went, we spread this smell of garlic. And the Germans thought that we did not understand that we ate garlic because we were so hungry.
That did not show that we were East workers. That was forbidden to them, obviously, because it was forbidden to us too. We were not allowed to go to the cinema or to visit public places. We had to have badges fixed here, or these numbers sewn on this, and East had to be on them. That was, how should I say, so that was clear to everybody who they were dealing with. Well, but we always covered that up so that it couldn't be seen.
All around the wire fence, there were tall apple trees. With these lovely apples, once I went after a lovely apple. It fell down. It hadn't even reached the ground, and then there was the guard. I heard the bullets whistling past my ears. I never tried that again.
That is a fabric star that we had to wear. All the corners had to be sewn down, and that had to be on the breast on the left-hand side so that people could see it clearly. We had several such fabric stars. The other one, with Jew written on it, was stamped out in the factory where I did forced labor, and we had to buy it for 1 mark and 10 pfennigs. We had to wear that on the breast and on our backs so that they knew even from a distance. But actually, we were the only Jews in the section. Only Jews. We were cut off. Wherever we went, there was just our Christian overseers. Das ist ein Stern aus Stoff, den wir tragen müssen. Allerdings waren wir nur Juden in dieser Abteilung. Nur Juden. Wir waren abgeschlossen.
woman said to me where I went to fetch water, where my husband went to fetch water, "I'm sorry, I can't help that. But I have to say, you look like a Jew to me." Then I said, "That may well be, but I can't help that." And I thought the ground was going to open up under my feet and swallow me. I told my husband about it, but we nevertheless, because we knew they were all communists there, we nevertheless carried on going there anyway.
Then we lived there illegally. When he threw us out, a guard on the underground, a devout Catholic, let us stay in his shed. That was out in the country in Hörnow. And that was roughly 1943 then, or it might have been 1944.
I had to wear the same underwear for so long. I washed it and sat with a blanket wrapped around me, waiting for it to dry. That was very unpleasant.
I met a medical student and he helped me to get ill. It looked like I had a kind of heart attack. He told me what I should tell to the doctor so that I get admitted to the hospital to show that I was really ill. I was discharged after a week. The doctor examined me and said, "Home." I had to wait in a large room where there were about 100 other people as well, Ukrainian and Russian women. No, not Russians, only Ukrainian and Polish women who were supposed to be being sent back to Poland for health reasons. The room was terrible. We were all so covered in lice and it was so dirty in there. We were locked in, but it wasn't a prison cell.
I saw the first Germans who came through the garden fence. A German was standing opposite. He was standing on the other side of the road and aiming his weapon at someone. Then I hear the bullets whistling around me. Yes, and I think it's probably serious. I must run away. And so I ran away.
Sie haben einige Leute aus der Fabrik von den Maschinen weggeholt. Sie haben gesagt, der und der und der soll kommen. Und das war die Gestapo. Sie haben die Leute damals schon rausgenommen. 1942 bin ich illegal zu meinem Vorarbeiter gegangen. Den habe ich gefragt, ob er nicht jemanden weiß, der uns beide aufnehmen könnte. In dieser Fabrik war er mein Vorarbeiter. Und da hat er gesagt, das kann ich mal fragen. Und vielleicht spreche ich mit meiner Frau, ob sie nicht zu uns kommen können. Sie haben ein Kind gehabt.
So if I tell you now, you might get the impression that it wasn't so bad at all, but in reality, it was of course very bad there. Just the fact of deportation, the fact of being forced to live there, the absence of freedom, the hunger, all that was, of course, back then, but it was terrible there.
We stopped at the station and there were a lot of women calling to us. Then we shot ourselves at the small windows. Do you know those cattle wagons? Then you know that they couldn't see us. That much is true. I threw a small note. Who I was, who I wasn't, out of the window, so that they could let my family know. And a young woman from up there, from Upper Italy, wrote a letter to my parents to say that she had found this note by the troop transport, that I was going into captivity. This woman kept contact with my family the whole time.
There was a friend of mine who I came from, who had met in Mestre. He was a prisoner like me. He tried to escape. He made it at night because he got out, opened the wagon door. The Germans didn't see him. He got out and mingling with the women who were giving us things through the small windows. And he pretended he was one of these women. The Germans lost sight of him and made it back home. But I never risked that because one young man escaped. The train had stopped at a crossing. He got out, tried to run away. They shot at him and brought him down, murdered him. I remember, and it was since then that no one risked it anymore out of fear. They killed you, shot you. They weren't messing around. Yes, yes, those were the orders. War is war. There is not a lot you can do. Ma io non rischiai mai perché un giovane scappò. Si era fermato il treno a un passaggio a livello. Scese, tentò di scappare. Gli spararono e lo ammazzarono. Mi ricordo. E fu lì che dopo non si rischiò nessuno dalla paura. Ti ammazzavano, non scherzavano. E l'ordine era quello. La guerra è guerra. C'è poco da fare.
Когда я сейчас говорю, может такое впечатление создаться, что не так-то плохо там было. Хотя на самом деле, конечно, там было очень плохо. И это сам факт угона, сам факт насильного содержания, там, отсутствие свободы, голод. Это все, конечно, было тогда. Когда это было там, ужасно было.
And then they all started to hug me. I thought they were going to crush me. And all of them, there were 12, I think, they all gave me their bowls so I could eat.
Sometimes the French organized dance evenings at their place. They were more free than we were. They were allowed to move freely in the camp, and we were only allowed to be in our cage. But we managed to go there anyway, went there and danced. They had some musical instruments or other, and we always, how should I say, had a happy time there. A thank you to them. They entertained us well.
That was disgusting, terribly humiliating. How many were we? 100? 200? We all had to strip naked. Our clothes were taken away for disinfection. We had to lie down, and these men, without washing their hands, went with these paws of theirs from one to the next and examined our hairy bits. So I made such an effort that I was very nearly sick, but I managed to let out a fart right on that one there. I was so embarrassing. So humiliating, you can hardly imagine the things that can happen to a girl.
And she said, I'm not as bad as I sound. Have something here for you. But put it away. If someone sees it, I'll be in trouble. But I never hit anyone, she said. And she gave me 2 bread rolls.
They took a few people from the factory away from the machines. They said that one, and that one's coming too. And that was the Gestapo. And that's how they took people away even back then, in 1942. I went illegally to my foreman and asked him if he knew anyone who could take us both. In that factory, he was my foreman. And then he said, I can ask, or perhaps I'll take you to my wife about whether you can come to us. They had a child.